Hello and welcome to another video, same makeup, new lip, and the lip of this video is I have no clue how it's called, but it's from Flower Nose. It's from the Swan Ballet one, and it's this oddly shaped lipstick in the shade B05, which is just a nice strawberry thing. I think they're called the water stains or something like that, and they're like lip balms, but on crack, which is really fitting because my makeup is on crack. I think you have seen the tutorial already. If you haven't, you should go back because I have done this beautiful makeup look with the very, or kind of, or whatever viral Chinese dragon palette that has been at least all over my TikTok feed. So I actually asked you a while ago, what are makeup items that you wish would come back that have been discontinued? And this idea was basically born out of me sitting here getting ready and then for whatever reason just thinking about an item that I just want to have, and then I was very, very sad that I just don't have it because I never pulled the trigger and buy it. So let's just today take a trip down memory lane and just very casual talk about makeup items that are discontinued that I wish would come back. And this might be a bit of a weird one, but this Hourglass palette, this was the sculpted palette that was kind of a surprise release in summer 2023. It was on the website, all of a sudden it was there, you were able to purchase it, and then it was gone. I'm pretty sure it was to get rid of like remaining colors that they still have, but I'm honest with you, I think about this palette a lot. I wish I would have pulled the trigger back then and bought this because I feel like this is just an Hourglass face palette. I would get so much use out of it. Maybe I'm just glorifying it in my head, but it is what it is. I wish they would bring out a sculpting palette. That is probably what I wish for. I want to have a sculpt palette, not with blushes and highlighter mix. I want to have something like that, a sculpting palette. Do you remember this beauty? Oh my God. I remember when this came out, how bad I wanted to have this, but I was not able to afford it since it comes from the States. It's very expensive to get things from the States to Germany, but I love this. And do you know what? I'm pretty sure, you can't correct me if I'm wrong, if there is just a release I can't think of from the top of my head, but this palette was the first color coordinated palette that is so popular right now. Like, look at Blend Bunny Cosmetics. And I think if Tati Beauty would have been coming out with this palette today, of course, without all the drama that happened afterwards, you know, we're not talking about the incident. If this would be a palette that she could have come out with today, it would be a fucking banger. Even more than back then. I am still very sad that I didn't buy this. I wish I have this. I wish it was still available. This is probably the palette that I call my Roman Empire because I think about this palette more often than I should. Everything Becca. Oh my God. It does not matter if it's the blushes. The blushes, by the way, were mentioned by you also in the comments, as well as the Becca primer. The backlight primer, the purple one. Oh, I wish I could try this. Every time I see it in a project pan from people who are like, I just have to let go now and use this up. I wish I had this. Not every makeup item from Becca is gone. Their skin perfecting highlighters are under the umbrella of Smashbox, same as the Becca Eye Under Eye Brightener. And I actually do have the brightener in my backup drawer that I will crack open once my current corrector is empty. Lorac Pro palettes. Do you remember these? I remember that I got mine in the States and I paid so much money for this. And the Lorac Pro, the original one, look at this palette. I used up the shade Taupe completely. I remember the shade Pewter was one that I nearly used up. Everything in this palette was just so perfect. I loved it. I even had this little tube of eyeshadow primer that was actually not that good in my opinion, if I remember that correctly. But the palette, the Lorac Pro, the very first one, it was it. And every now and then I think of repurchasing it because I feel like you can get this still on eBay from people, but it's, I think, not sold anymore. Oh, just looking at this makes me so happy. Do you remember these? The Lancome shakers? Oh boy, I remember that at that time Samantha Ravndal, I think she was still named Battleish at that time. Or was she already Sam? I'm not sure, but she talked about these and I never came a hold of them because they were just not available in Germany. And when I all of a sudden just thought about them once again, they were gone and now you can't get them. And I just remember how she raved about this formulation and I wish that Lancome could bring them back. You guys, Makeup Geek. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a sad thing and the whole Marlena thing is really getting in a downward spiral currently and it's really sad to see. But Makeup Geek was it back then. I had several Makeup Geek eyeshadows also that I then decluttered. And then I actually 2 years ago, I ordered shortly before they went out of business. And I was so disappointed. But overall, I think something like Makeup Geek, maybe with a more advanced formulation that is just fitting the needs of nowadays people's makeup love, that would be a banger, especially for that price. Makeup Geek was still one of the more affordable ones. And I think they would still bang to this day because I feel like build your own palette things are just getting popular again and people love to do this. And I just kind of wish that Makeup Geek with their basicness would come back. Because you have a lot of brands that do sell single eyeshadows, but they're not basic. Look at Lethal Cosmetics. You have basic shadows, yes, but you have so many multi-chromes. Makeup Geek was just basic. The Hourglass Ghost palette. Oh boy, I think there was a 4-pan version and this 6-pan version. I wanted to have it so bad, but for whatever reason, I didn't buy it and I don't know why. But then it was sold out and now I'm sad. Do you remember these? The OG Shadow Insurance from Too Faced. The glitter glue, actually, I just last year retired because I still had like something left in the tube, but it got really weird after like 5 or 6 years. So I let go of it. But the original Shadow Insurance was the best eye primer back then and they reformulated it. I know the Shadow Insurance you can still buy, but it's so bad, I had a rash from it. So something is in there that I cannot. And I think it's because they now had to, I don't know, like clean up the formulation. I don't know, but it's really bad. It's not as good as it used to be. Oh, you guys, the YSL Volupté glosses. I love them so fucking much. There was one shade, number 204 Coral. That was my summer shade. And you'd be like, what? You a coral? Yes, this specific coral was everything to me. I loved it to death. I loved the smell because they smelled like watermelon. They were so light and fresh and nothing compares to this. No gloss has ever been released that compares to these Volupté glosses. And please, please YSL, bring them back in the original formula. Don't clean it up. Bring it back in your original formulation. I will buy all of them. Oh, Bite Beauty. I remember the Bite Beauty Agave Lip Mask was something that I had to order from Sephora in the States because it was not available in Germany. I mean, everything is not available from Bite because they went out of business. I think they are only having their lip labs or something like that in the States. But that is basically it. And the original Agave Lip Mask, that was the thing. And everything went downhill from Bite Beauty when they reformulated to being clean. See, when you clean up your ingredients, you will go out of business because it's just a dumb move. Do I have to say anything about this? The Anastasia Amrezy highlighter is just... That thing broke the internet and I just remember that I wanted to have this, but I was so like clear in my mind, in my makeup mind, that this is definitely too dark for me, that I never got this. And now I'm like, why? I wish I would have gotten this, because I feel like I could have made this work. And if not, I would now own a piece of makeup history, which is very dumb, but I wish they would come back with the Amrezy highlighter, but I'm also sure that ABH never will. Maybe it is a name thing, maybe they have somewhat of a copyright thing going on, maybe they signed somewhat of an extra contract with Amrezy that this specific shade cannot be sold again unless Amrezy approves it. Now let's talk about yours that you wish would come back. And the first one that I have is the Chanel Tease Venetian, whatever, eyeshadow quad. First of all, I personally wanted to say that this formulation of this baked eyeshadow quad looks really disgusting, but I see what is so tempting, because you basically have a mid-tone gray, a pink, a very nice black, and this like taupey metal shade. This is the perfect everyday quad if you love quick looks. I see how versatile this is. I personally never heard of this, so yeah, I'm not a Chanel makeup girl at all, but I see why you missed this. Next up we have the Becca blushes, and I have to admit, for whatever reason, I was not aware of the fact that Becca had a blush line. For me, Becca was always base makeup, the corrector, and highlighters. I don't know, the blushes, they went under my radar, and when I look at them, they look really, really nice. I think a shade like Gypsy or Nightingale, I would still buy today. Then there was mentioned the Too Faced Papa Don't Preach blush. Why specifically this one? I mean, the shade looks like a very generic peach. I think it has shimmer in it, but maybe it was the scent. I remember that I had the Peach Perfect setting powder. It was a sample size that I had in a calendar or in a box, in a beauty box, whatever, and I really liked this. The whole peach line, I think, from Too Faced was a hit because of this fruity scent. This is just an example, but it doesn't matter if it's Urban Decay Naked 1 or Naked 2. These two palettes, I think, live in people's heads rent-free, and they will forever live on. Because Urban Decay just created two palettes in this line that broke everything, and everybody wanted to have this. I a couple weeks ago had friends over for my husband's birthday, and the girl is also very, very passionate about makeup, and we started talking about, and she was like, she even bought the Urban Decay Naked 1 shade, the Smog shade, in a single version. They had a single, and she went through multiple of these because it was the perfect shade, and now they don't have it anymore, or, well, they're not available here in the EU anymore, or at least not everything. Just a couple things have been released now via Beauty Bay and Look Fantastic, but overall Urban Decay is not distributed in Germany anymore. And just the Naked 1 and 2, the original ones, if they bring them back, people will lose their mind. People don't need a reformulation, they don't need a reloaded version, they want to have this. These two palettes, just as they are, bring them back, and I'm pretty sure that some people would stock up on multiple of these. Original Milani Luminoso. I remember that I had Milani too. There were just a couple online shops that sell Milani here in Germany, and I was so happy when I was able to grab some of these glowing blushes, and I hated them. I think they are so bad, but I see why people love this. I can totally get this, how this glowy baked formulation is just something very quick to throw on, very fresh, and I saw that they had a reformulation and that it is actually not as good as the original one. Someone sent in the Huda Mercury Retrograde, and I'm honest with you, I was not aware of the fact that this is discontinued. I know that her 18 pan palettes are limited edition somewhat, but I feel like they're available for years. But this is not available anymore. And when I googled for an image here, I just saw that this was at the last time discounted of 50%. So it was probably the last sale they had with this palette. And I'm honest with you, it is a beautiful palette. Mercury Retrograde is really a good one, but there are better ones out there. Like, this is definitely not as good as you might glorify it in your head. Next up we have Kaleidos Flower Punk, that is Wish to Come Back. I never tried Kaleidos makeup, so I don't know how good this is, and you know, I can totally see what kind of makeup you love, you who sent this in, but when I see this palette, I'm like, this is worse than Yucca from Natasha Denona. The whole color scheme is just not for me, but look at this beautiful artwork on this palette. This is really pretty. What happened to Kaleidos? Because whenever I see releases from them, they're not that. They're like very bland and different and borderline boring. What happened to Kaleidos? This is fun. This is a really fun palette. Not my color story, but I guess out of that era, there are other palettes that might be my color story. Blend Bunny Primal was also mentioned. I remember how sad people were when Blend Bunny announced that this is discontinued, and I'm honest with you, the Primal palette was actually the one that got me interested in Blend Bunny, even though I don't own this, because I was like, I don't need a palette with this big white and this big black, but it makes sense. It makes completely sense in this rainbow palette that you have a white and a black in such a big pan size, because you just need it to even manipulate the shades even further. And I think a lot of people love Primal, a lot of people miss the Primal palette. So yeah, I get it. Next up we have the Mac and Pony Park collection. I never heard of this. I have no clue what or who Pony Park is, so please don't throw things at me. But it was mentioned that there is especially one highlighter that should come back, and when I just look this now up and see this image, the lip stuff, okay, I can totally skip that, but the palette, oh my god, how pretty is that palette, and that icy highlighter, chef's kiss. Where are those beautiful collections from MAC nowadays? Where are they? We're missing them. We want them. 2 people even submitted the Urban Decay Afterglow blushes. I have absolutely no memory of these being available. I remember their outer packaging, yes, but I had no clue how pretty they are. And the shades, I mean, Bittersweet, Obsessed, Quiver, Quickie. Oh my god, this is just something that would be totally trending today, that would go viral in a minute. Too bad they're not available anymore. Very, very sad. There were so much more entries. I was just not able to put them all in a video without the video being an hour long. So what is a makeup item that you wish would come back, be permanent? Maybe something that you missed buying back then, or maybe something that you decluttered or emptied and you just want to repurchase but you can't. Or maybe something that you still have but that you value in your collection because you don't want to touch it. Some girl even submitted a perfume, the Dior Tendre Poison, that she still has. I mean, that is a scent from 1994, and she values this so much that she has it in her collection and only uses on special occasions. So maybe there is a makeup item that you just value as much. So I hope you like this more chatty vibe, and let us know down below what other items of makeup fall into this category. Don't forget to subscribe because I do fun stuff over here, and I hope I can see you in the next one.